Okay, the MOWG Toolbar version 17.1. Believe it or not, it's faster. People by now are asking, how in the world can you make it faster? And the answer is just anticipating what people are going to do a little better so that they can press fewer buttons. So let me just start with our good old favorite MOWG-affiliate.com. Since heck, it's an apples to apples way of explaining what's going on. So import a web page, MOWG-affiliate.com. Boom. Guess what it does? 3 steps at once. Wham. Wham. Okay, you see, it's done, and not only is it done, it corrected all of the, well, resolved all of the links, all the URLs. So what does that mean happen? That means that this step and this step happen together in one big step, followed by saving as HTML. So just by hitting this, I set off a domino effect where it asks for the page that we want to import, and then where the base href would be the main part where the images and CSS would come off of, which is usually just the main domain, followed by actually saving the page, because it's kind of what we would do naturally in 3 steps anyway. It just does it all together. So just to make it really simple, let me just delete this again, and starting over again, step 1, the page itself that we want, whether it's the main page or some deeper page. I hit enter. Now, where the relative beginning of all the image files are, don't even hit add edit on universal fixes anymore. Don't even run it anymore. Not like this. It's all happening right here. This is that final thing you would put at the bottom. So bam. And then, of course, if there is already an index.html, it'll override it. Boom. So it saved it. And it did all 3 of those in one flat step. Now that's just useful. Now for guys who say, okay, well if we don't do this anymore because it won't actually save this bit in here anymore, whatever it is you're trying to change this to, it really doesn't save it anymore. So you can't run it locally like this. People say, how do you deal with this? The answer is just go straight to the source worksheet. In my case, I created a shortcut to the actual thing right here. Okay, there it is. So I can change this here to whatever I want, like MOWG-affiliate.com. And there you go, it changes. Okay, I don't hit update because I opened it locally. So I just hit save. That's it. Then I'll just close that page. I didn't mean to close the other one, which is still here. Okay, so you see what's going on there. I could close all of Excel with a big red button and save it. But now if I do this, and if I look at universal fixes, the last item in the list is now MOWG-affiliate.com. Not because I hit this, because it's not going to save this now. If I tried to make this like MOWG-Crew.com, which is different, and update, and then if I go look at it again, oh, it did take this time. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But anyway, I can't really fix it. It's not gonna, if I do replace it, it's gonna be a weird page now, right? Unless it didn't take. Ah, that's because it did not take. That's what I mean. All these images are on MOWG-affiliate.com, not MOWG-Crew.com. If I try to find MOWG-Crew, it's not down until we have some backlinks to it at the very bottom of the page. Nothing for the images or anything else. Okay, so like I'm saying, don't use this separately. Just do it as part of importing the web page. And if you wanted to start a brand new project, just do it and overwrite the HTML page anyway. MOWG-affiliate.com. Again, and yes, and done. And it's done. And that's correct. That's how it's supposed to be. That's what it is. And there you have it. Okay. And if you did want to make changes to your universal fixes, really, then just go directly in there. Where is that? That's inside your program files x86 folder if you have it, or else your program files. In that folder called MOWG Toolbar V17. It's right where you installed this stuff. Okay. You wouldn't have 2 of these. It's just because I do. All right. So anyway, there you have it. That's the first step. So then what's the next step? It's code to vars. You guys know that. And that moves faster. But more importantly, the source moves much faster, when you highlight the whole row and hit the source, it does not bog down anymore. We found out what was going on. So now when it processes, you can see it processing the columns down here, and it goes faster as it goes instead of slower. It's cool. But also, when you highlight just a few words and hit the source, it does just that, like you would expect. That has not changed. But if we do the entire thing at once, if we select the entire row and hit the source, guess what? First, you're going to see it process faster. Second, it's going to hit this for you just to create that second page for a spinner in case you want to use a spinner. If you don't want to use a spinner, just disregard that second tab. You don't need it. Stay on sheet 1 or get back on sheet 1 and just continue from there. So let me do this now. If I go and hit the source, watch how it works. Boom. First, you can see it processing down here, and it speeds up as it goes. That's nice. And second, it created a brand new code to SRW tab with everything already broken out, so we don't have to hit var sheet coding to alphanumerics on our own. Notice how this is blinking, and notice how this is kind of flashing. I have to click in here somewhere so I can hit the done button. And it's done. But if I did not want to use a spinner, just disregard this tab. Go back to sheet 1 and just continue from here like normal, as you would expect. Okay? Now, with that said, all this stuff is there. Okay, and real quick, what did I not do? I didn't do any pre-cleanup, which I might want to do and I might not want to do, but just for the sake of showing you how some of these buttons work really fast. I think you know code reassembly. You probably know that if you go to reassemble the code and where there's no choices down here, you can do it now, like with this, because these are two columns and there's nothing here. And so if I wanted to put these together, I could do it. Code reassembly with a space maybe is maybe what I want, or maybe no space. Just depends. Boom. That's the beginning of the meta tag description, content equals, and it opens with tfan, so that's perfectly fine. I did not need a space because I wanted to open with tfan, not with a space tfan, but right with a tfan. Okay, and that's fine. It did do the job just right. But I cannot do the same thing here, right? If I go code reassembly now, when I try to reassemble this with a space, it's going to drop literally everything down here, right? And that would be a mistake. I'd lose all of my variations. That's what the articles button is for. Articles was originally created for cases of a and an. A table and elephant. And here's an example of that. Control F. Let me look for the word and. There has to be that somewhere in here. So let me just find all. And let me just find and. Okay, there we go. Perfect example. Here we have it. Okay. With our an, we have an ocean, but it wouldn't want to be an marine, right? We want it to be a marine, a sea, a deep sea, an oceanic. You know, and that's if we wanted to keep all these. We could use our control key, hold it down, and select things that we don't want, like those. Okay, except go down in order. That's just the best way to go, like that. And then hit Format Sheet, Drop, and it gets rid of all the things we don't want. Okay, but now what do I have? If I take this and hover over that until I get my little black cross arrow, I can drag it down, and I get an in front of all of them. But now I can edit. That should be A. Double click, that should be A. Double click, that should be A. That should be A. But that needed to be an. Now when it goes creating all the variation pages, I do not want it to mix and match these things. I don't want it to say an marine or a ocean, right? That's what the articles button is for. Don't use code reassembly. You'll lose all of these. Okay, but if you do use articles, you'll retain anything going down. And here's how that works. Hit articles, select the two you want. You can only do a max of 2. And it will assume to put a space in between. So we just submit. Okay, and there you have it now. And space ocean. Now you could do it with the rest of this, but you're going to wind up with spaces after that. So you know, you wouldn't do it with the rest of this, but you could. If you, let's say I just want to do it somewhere else. Okay, let's say I want to do it here except I want to make sure that these match up. So either I get rid of one of these or I add one of these here at the bottom anyway. And I'm just going to do that. Boom. That way they match up. Okay, click off of there. Now I want to do it there. Articles, grab those two, submit. Okay, and I can stretch that out. And I see it. It's all perfect, except I lost all my ability to circulate through all the combinations of these things. I locked them in. I no longer get to mix and match the first words with the second words. They're all stuck in one cell, right? So just keep that in mind, right? The way it works is take one cell and put it with the next cell, 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 all the way across the page, whatever choices it has to work with, okay? In any combination. That's effectively the best way to think about it. All right, but you could do this with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row. You just have to do 2 at a time. Here, I'll just give you a simple example. Let's take, what do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's take 4 of these, copy it, paste. Just all I'm doing is matching these up, okay? And then let's just say hundreds of, and I went all the way down. Boom. So how do I do it? Let's say I wanted to concatenate all this with spaces in between them, if I really did. Okay, fine. Let's just take any two. Bam. Perfect. Now let's just take that in the next one. Perfect. And then finally, that in the next one. Perfect. There it is. So I can pull that out. And you see it. It's all done together. That's mainly meant for A and AN. That's like the only case where you have to worry about it usually. But you can do it to concatenate cells together so that you don't get twists in between them. They just always are kept that way, which sometimes is important. If you had a list of cities here and states there, you probably want to concatenate those so that you can take care of that issue, right? So your cities belong to the right state. You don't get Chicago, California. You get Chicago, Illinois, San Francisco, California, right? And that's what concatenating that would be all about. Okay? The right city with the right state, or A and N, A table, and elephant, that kind of thing. All right? So that's how that works. And as a reminder, if I go to do code reassembly, the difference is this. Maybe I want comma space I'm. There's nothing underneath it, so it'll work. So do this, code reassembly, put a space, and there it goes. It's perfect. It just did what it's supposed to do. But if I try to do it here with a space, what'll it do? Code reassembly with a space, and there. That's the problem. It did it with the first choice. Oh, it actually mixed and matched the whole thing in there. It's not meant for column stuff. It's only meant for the top ones. Oh, and that's why it did it, because I did that. If I'd just done this, it would do the top one, and it would literally drop all the choices that came below it. Except it's all mixed and matched with everything else by now because of the way I had it before. All right, let me try it one last time so you can see it. Ready? These two. And I went code reassembly, go. All right, fine. It put it there, but it took out everything that came below it. No choices left. And that's why you use the articles. But don't do it if your stuff does not match up at the bottom unless you fix it first, or you're going to wind up with stray spaces. You could fix that really quickly. Ready? Articles, next level, go. And that's fine, but we know that down here it's got stray spaces. How do we deal with that? Simple. Highlight the column that we're worried about and hit Format Sheet, remove extra spaces. It removes them from the beginnings and the ends, not in the middle. That's why they're extra. And it's done. It fixed our stray space problem. Very, very good. So that's all we needed to know and worry about. We're all straight there. Okay, I can save that. Now, the weird thing is, of course, I wound up with something that's not matching my code to SRW anymore because of the way I mixed and matched everything. So let me just do this much from the beginning again, just to show you how extremely fast this really is, when you just notice. And wonderfully, we don't really have to talk about it now. Just watch, see if you recognize everything. That's the main page. That's the base. Saved. Looks right. I could hit allow block content or not if it doesn't take too long. Code to vars. Start doing any kind of cleanup I feel like doing, which is up to me. Things like this. It's good to use the code reassembly now before we break things out, right? So I'm just going to go through this page and clean all these things that I definitely know I want. You know, dot issues and stuff. I know I have them. Matter of fact, it's got to be in here somewhere. I'm sure I'll see it sooner or later. Real quick here. Aha! Like these. Code reassembly. Okay? Boom. Aha! Okay. And then highlight the whole thing, hit the source. See how quick that goes? Okay. And it created my new code to SRW. I clicked on here to hit done. Now, because I'm going to use my article spinner, I'm not going to worry about A's and N's yet. I'm not going to worry about the article buttons until I'm just catching the spinner be wrong, right? And there we have it. So take one of these, copy, paste, pull that last stray space up, add another article, take this one, copy it, put it in there as article 2, pull the last stray up, start. And now I can just wait for this to finish. It'll take about a minute. I'll pause. Okay, go to my archive. And I'm just going to open these in the order I want them. SRW1 comes first, then SRW1001. So I'm going to open this one first in a new tab. Then that one in a new tab. That way I got them in the order I want. Go to a new sheet. And let's just do it. Select all. Copy. Double click in here. Paste. And accept that. That's how I know I got it right. Click on the next one, because the reading order that it expects is cell to cell. As soon as it hits an empty cell, it assumes it's done. So always have these in concurrent cells or conjacent cells or whatever they're called. Now just convert from. That's done. Alphanumerics already assumes the right sheet. There's one code to SRW, so that's done. And now, if I want to look for articles issues, I can look for the word "and" up here somewhere, or the word "a," you know, Control F, and I can look for "and," say, that kind of thing, find all. Like, there it is, it's wrong, right? So I can do it right, and, but then "a" supplementary. Okay, and then just use my articles to concatenate it together. Submit. That just cleans it up. And then I can go on to the next one, do the same thing. Okay, when I'm all said and done, and by the way, I don't need this anymore. Okay, now that I'm done with all that, let's say I've cleaned everything up, I'm happy with the final results. So what do? Hit header generator. And it's going to do the rest of the work for me. Save the index, overwrites, and also overwrites the CSV. It's created tabs I need here for archiving purposes. These are the vars, where it says only vars. Vars HTML is the HTML with all the var information inside of it. Full backup is where we left off with the header generator, the stuff you're familiar with before removing the SSSs. Okay, and the top line that got concatenated, okay, the whole thing you would recognize. Okay, and so it's all saved. We still have our code SRW, we still have our sheet 1. All this stuff is still saved. Everything is still right here. So I can close this. But I do have my new index and new vars. And if I did need to edit this and save as UTF-8 so the encoding matches or something like that, I can do that, and that's fine. And the program MOWG-Pro will absolutely deal with that just fine. Now in this case, I don't think I need to do that, so I save it back as ANSI, unless I found somewhere in the header it says it's UTF-8. And I can even do an edit find just to see UTF-8, because I never did pay attention. But yep, there is none. All right, fine, so it's ANSI. All right, So here I am. It all makes sense. Everything about the page is good except for the silly space question mark issue that we know of. Maybe some other issue. Edit, replace, space question mark with question mark, place all. And now I'm done with it. And I can just start using the MOWG Pro to run it out, just as you would expect. So it's all good now. Everything is here and done right. Okay, that's the idea. All right, I hope you found that interesting. It was pretty quick. Everything's nice and efficient. Be sure to check out that tool tips and tricks too for more chat about ANSI versus UTF-8. I explain it. And some other cool notes on like where to find where the images and CSS come off a page if they don't come off the main domain. I show you an example of that. All right, there you go. Hope you enjoyed this.